We're talking the Alabama Crimson Tide today on Sharpen the Point. 2024, it was 9-4. It was a step back in year one of the post-Saban era, with the first four-loss season since 2007. Kalen DeBoer now enters his second season, and he brought in a friendly face in Ryan Grubb, who was the Seahawks offensive coordinator last season after being with DeBoer at Washington. Quarterback Jalen Milroe, he was good when he was healthy as a playmaker, creating explosive plays with his legs and arm, but consistency in the pass game was not his strong suit. With over 700 yards rushing and 20 touchdowns on the ground, he was a force that defenses could not account for. But the 2,800 yards passing was serviceable, while the 16 touchdown, 11 interception ratio left plenty of room for improvement. With him now off to the NFL, there's a three-man competition to be the replacement between Cy Simpson, Austin Mack, and five-star true freshman Uber prospect Keelan Russell. Simpson's the leader in the clubhouse coming out of the spring, with Grubb stating that if there were to play a game tomorrow, then Simpson would be the starter. It's not a big surprise given he is one of the most experienced with the most experience in the group, even though he has yet to play many meaningful snaps and he has never been able to seize this job before. He's more of a traditional pocket passer with limited mobility. He just does throw a very catchable ball. The competition certainly is not over yet, though, as Austin Mack should understand this system very well, having followed DeBoer from Washington, where he was recruited by the offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb. They thought enough of him to bring him along last year, so they clearly see something in him and his big arm that he provides. Russell is extremely green as a freshman, but there is no doubt they view him as the future of the room. The question is if the future is this season or next. Both made good strides in the spring and will continue to push Simpson into the fall. Running back-wise, Jam Miller was the clear lead back a year ago, although you could argue Milroe was, with Justice Haynes operating behind him by stealing 7 touchdowns. Although Milroe did lead the team in carries, yards, and touchdowns, taking away opportunities from his backfield mates. Now we have a situation where Milroe leaves for the NFL and Haynes bolted for Michigan, leaving Miller as the clear-cut top back in the room to begin the season. Miller started last year with efficient numbers over the first 3 games, but they really fell off a cliff after that. He ended the season with just north of 650 yards rushing and 7 touchdowns. With a much less mobile quarterback under center, he should see more opportunities, and the room as a whole will as well. Miller needs to be much better to maintain a stranglehold on the bulk of the work, or else someone could pass him up early in the year. The top backups look to be Richard Young and Daniel Hill, but it is a deep room overall. Young should start the season mixing in the most, as he's believed to be ready to step into that number 2 role. Hill, though, is making a case of his own for the job after having an impressive spring, with Grubb noting that he maybe stood out as much as anybody, positioning him for early season touches. Hill is a mountain of a man at 6'1", 240. He looked really good catching the ball out of the backfield in the spring, and obviously he can be a thumper inside given that size. Pass catching wise, look, hot take here, but Ryan Williams' season last year was nowhere near as impressive as the media would have made it out to believe. I know he was 17. Everybody told us ad nauseum that he was 17 years old. But he only cleared 100 yards twice on the year, and he had a high of 53 yards over his last 6 games with only 1 touchdown in that span, and that was against Mercer. I think Jeremy Bernard was a much more consistent and better over the back half of the season. He just struggled to find the end zone all year, recording only 2 touchdowns. Both Williams and Bernard return as the top 2 options in the pass game, and they should have better seasons this year with a more consistent passing offense and a quarterback who can deliver a more catchable football. The Tide did need a third option on the outside, so they went out and acquired a good one in Isaiah Horton from Miami. He provides a reliable option that they lacked last season, and Horton opened a lot of eyes during the spring as a perfect complement to the top 2, given his 6'4" frame is something that the other 2 do not possess. CJ Dupree, he paced the tight end room last year, but now moves on, leaving Josh Cuevas as the top receiving option at the position. Offensive line-wise, 3 of the 5 starters from a good, not great unit last year. I think Milroe really masked some of the deficiencies of that line. But left tackle Caden Proctor returns, with center Parker Brailsford and right guard Jaden Roberts being the foundation of that unit. Proctor's the prize possession here along the line as the anchor of it. He was limited during the spring, giving others a chance to get reps, but he's expected to be a full go for the fall. Wilkin Formby, he seems to have locked down that right tackle spot following the transfer of Elijah Pritchett to Nebraska. He struggled in limited opportunities last season, so that does leave some questions to be answered on the field by him. The biggest competition here is at left guard, where Cam Dewberry, who they brought in from Texas A&M, he's battling Gino Vandemark for that starting role. Dewberry has the lead really coming out of spring practice, but is by no means a close competition. Vandemark saw time at all three interior spots last season, so his versatility is going to come in handy if anyone goes down during the season. Depth is a big concern for this offensive line heading into the season. They really need to rely on some young guys on that two deep. They have some freshmen that are going to be mixing in there. Defensive line-wise, last year the line was good against the run, but they really struggled to generate pressure and sacks on the quarterback. 9 sacks for a defensive line at Alabama on the season is just not going to cut it from that front four. LT Overton, he's the top returning pass rusher. He's going to start at that bandit position. He has first round and All-American potential if he can convert more of the pressure that he was able to put on quarterbacks into sacks. There may be no position deeper than that bandit spot, though, with Kelby Collins, who comes over from Florida, Jordan Renaud, and Keon Keeley, all candidates for rotational roles. Collins has been working at defensive tackle some as well to give him a better chance at seeing the field more, given the depth they have here. Tim Keenan, he's a heck of a nose tackle. He's a clear anchor of the unit. He's really as solid as it gets in the middle, generating a pass rush and eating up blockers. Joining him is going to be James Smith. He could be in store for a big breakout this season after turning it on down the stretch last year. I'd expect plenty of rotation along the line of scrimmage with the quality of depth in the room. It is an inexperienced depth, though, but the talent is there for guys to step up. Linebacker-wise, losses of Jahad Campbell and Q Robinson, they leave big shoes to fill, though there are highly rated recruits teething to step into these roles. The staff really expected this to be a youthful group heading into last season this year, but they did receive a reprieve on that with the season-ending injury to Deontay Lawson, giving him another season of eligibility, and an extra year being granted to Justin Jefferson for that Diego Pavia JUCO rule, allowing them to keep plenty of continuity here. You add in Quay Rousseau, and then John Marion Latham, and then Nakai Hill Green, who they brought in from Colorado, and you have plenty of depth if anyone gets banged up. Hill Green was an all-conference performer last season in the Big 12 with his speed and sure tackling showing up big. Even coming off his injury, you have to expect Lawson to be one of the top linebackers in the country, but if he is not 100% healthy to start the season, then it's really no issue, as both Jefferson and Hill Green are more than capable options to pair in the middle. When all three are healthy, though, they will undoubtedly be in some sense in a rotation. Rousseau is going to start in that Wolf spot, but there is plenty of talent behind him as well. Latham, he can be a versatile chess piece for them to use all over with the experience he has at both Bandit and Wolf. Defensive back-wise, the secondary took a lot of heat last year. I know I picked on them in DFS for how they performed at times throughout the season, letting receivers run free. They kind of got a reprieve early in the year because the teams like Western Kentucky specifically, they just had poor quarterback play that wasn't able to hit the broadside of the barn even though guys were wide open. You know, they got better as the season went on, even though they did lack a true shutdown corner. Safety Malachi Moore was the best player on the back end for them, but now he heads off to the NFL. I'd expect them to improve with so much coming back in the secondary with the experience they were able to gain a year ago. And one could argue the secondary really is the strongest position group on this roster now. At corner, those starters from a year ago, Domani Jackson and Xavier Brown, they returned to those lead roles. And Womack did rotate corners some last season, so I would expect to see plenty of snaps for Cam Calhoun, who comes over from Utah, and 5-star freshman Dejon Lee, as both could really start for a number of programs right now. Lee consistently made eye-popping plays in the spring when filling in for Jackson, showing his true potential. Keon Sabb and Bray Hubbard, they're going to be in the safety spots. Hubbard was impressive when he took over for an injured Sabb last season, and now they're going to pair together. He's fundamentally sound and always in the right place on the field with a nose for the football. Sab has an All-American ceiling if he can stay healthy. And then Xavier Mincy, he's going to keep pushing this duo after making the switch from corner to safety during bowl practices, which really led to him replacing Moore in that bowl game. The nickel spot, that's going to be manned by Deshaun Jones after he emerged last season, but keep an eye on Dre Kirkpatrick Jr., long lineage of Dirk Kirkpatrick's here. He's had a strong offseason. He could be thrust into the limelight pretty soon. Looking at the schedule and outlook for the season, without Milroe, the offense will not be nearly as explosive as it was a year ago, but it should be more consistent week to week, as how good it was last season depended on how healthy Milroe was on any given week. The running back room needs to step up and be improved on a per carry basis, which all starts along the line where the talents, there's just talent there, but there's questions as to how they gel together and how well they'll perform. We know the weapons on the outside are good. They just need the ball delivered to them on time in order to perform up to snuff. Linebackers are going to be a strength of this defense, and the secondary should be improved and very good. But the success of this defense is really going to come down to if the line can put pressure on the quarterback and deliver on that pressure and get home there. That's an area they really struggled with a year ago, and they need to convert those into sacks. At Florida State to lead off the season, that's a win. They want to run it, and the passing game is going to be a struggle for those guys with Castellanos. It matches up really well with the talent of this defense. UL Monroe, easy win. Wisconsin, easy win. At Georgia, I think this is a coin flip game. I know it was a coin flip a year ago. They got off to that hot start, let Georgia back in that game. I still think DeBoer can have the guys up for that, even on the road inside the hedges. Vanderbilt, they get revenge win here against Pavia for what happened last year. I think they take them down. At Missouri, win. Tennessee, I'm going to lean win there. I think Tennessee is going to take a little bit of a step back this year with Aguilar under center. At South Carolina, I think it's a coin flip, but they did lose a lot on defense. I would lean win, but you're going to have to be able to contain Sellers there. LSU, another coin flip. It is at home. That is a benefit, but they have to get pressure on Nuss and get home and sack him in order to win that game. Oklahoma, I'll lean win. I don't know that Mateer is necessarily going to be ready for this type of conference. Eastern Illinois, win. And then at Auburn, that's perennially a coin flip. You can never count Auburn out of that game in the Iron Bowl. It's no matter who's good and who's bad, it's always a close one. The schedule's nowhere near as tough as it could be with no significant non-conference tests, while missing Ole Miss, Texas, and Florida is a benefit. Still, Georgia, LSU, and Auburn are going to be tough tests for this team. DeBoer needs to get in the playoff to quiet the critics after barely missing out on it a year ago, especially after that poor bowl game performance. Do I think 9 wins gets them there? I'm not certain in that. They would need a very good win against an LSU or a Georgia to make that happen, but it's not impossible for that to occur. They should reach that 9-win barrier, but a playoff berth could be on the line really heading into that Iron Bowl.